I haven't beaten Silksong yet, but I am loving the first part of it. The music has the same potent atmosphere as the first game, and the quality of the writing is just as strong. I thought it would be fun to compare the theme for Bone Bottom, great name, Silksong's home base equivalent to Hollow Knight's Dirtmouth, with the original game's Dirtmouth music to see how the long-awaited sequel expands on the musical vision of the series. A comparison of the harmony shows an immediate contrast in the two themes' approaches. Hollow Knight's Dirtmouth has become a go-to example for me of the Dorian mode because of the nice juicy raised 6th C-sharp note the melody sits on while the music stretches out languidly on an E minor chord. You couldn't ask for a more clear example of the raised 6th in a minor key, evoking the Dorian mode's mysterious nature. This Dorian sound is brighter than your regular minor, so waiting until the end of a phrase of somber E minor ruminating to bring it in has a brightening up effect. It lends a sense of curiosity to the music. The opening bar of Bone Bottom's theme goes a different way with it, rolling up a C minor chord with the flat 6 rather than the raised 6 nestled right in the middle of the voicing. The flat 6 in a minor key sounds tragic, all the more so included in the tonic chord, with the semitone rub between the 5th and flat 6th injecting a pointed dissonance into the sound. If the Dorian mode creates a sense of mystery in Dirtmouth, the aggressively Aeolian approach in Bone Bottom creates a sense of misery. It doesn't take too many bars to realize that there's a consistent structure being used with each chord, moving around to start on different root notes, and it turns out the thrust of the piece is in exploring these chord structures rather than developing a melody. Every chord in this section is built the exact same way, and it's this structure that's responsible for the piece's atmosphere. Each chord takes a 5th leap up from the root, then a step up from that 5th, and then another 5th leap up from there to get us to the 3rd of the chord. This spells out a 1-5-6-3, a nice open voicing of a 6 chord, which is a triad with the 6th added to it. Over the major chords, this gives us a major 6 chord, which isn't a very common sound to find anymore. These were super popular to use as the 1 chord in old Tin Pan Alley show tunes and the jazz compositions that spawned out of them. They feel nice and soft, having more color than a regular triad, but no rough edges to them. For the minor chords in the piece, this same structure brings in the flat 6 of each chord, bringing in that tragic quality that we talked about. These chords are really rare to find in music, either modern or not, but they have such a potency to them. Whenever these G minor flat 6 chords hit, it feels absolutely devastating. Every single chord in this section uses this same structure without compromise, and it gives the whole piece this beautifully wistful quality. Now, there is a second section to the piece, introduced by the solo harp playing this new repeated melody figure over these, once again, devastatingly crunchy half steps between the G and A flat notes. After this harp setup is done, we're introduced to our second chord structure idea in the piece. This second section once again doesn't feature a very interesting or complicated melody figure. Instead, the thrust of the piece is this figure in the bass, a stack of 5ths going from the root to the 5th to the 9th of each chord, repeated consistently through almost every chord in the section. Stacks of fifths like this have a much wider, more open sound than the crunchy arpeggios of the first section, which gives the piece a sense of growth as we go along here. On top of this bass figure, thick layers of strings pile on slowly to build the music up to a climax, and right when it comes to a head, a big pause gives way to a quiet and devastating C minor add 2 chord. It's interesting to build a piece off of chord voicing ideas so explicitly like this, and it's impressive managing to do so without having the music feel like a composition exercise. There are a couple of places where the music has to step outside of the key of the piece to maintain these structural ideas, and it's these moments that stand out as being ear-catchingly colorful. The F minor chord introduced towards the end of the first section is a simple enough move. The music wants to drop down to the 4 chord to facilitate a walk back up to the 1. F minor, G minor, A flat, B flat, resolving up to C minor. However, as we've established, the 6 chord structure turns each minor chord into a minor add flat 6 chord. This flat 6 is found inside the key for both the C minor and G minor chords that we've seen used up to this point, but this F minor chord brings in a D flat note to maintain the same solemn structure, and in doing so brings in an extra dark flat second of the key. The structure of the chord wins out over the stability of the key, and it gives this drop down to F minor an extra powerful punch. This F minor didn't appear in the first phrase, so you're not expecting it in the second, and this darker turn after the nice pretty A flat 6 chord before it gives it that much more impact. The same kind of moment happens in the second section of the piece with the stack of fifths chord structure. The second bar of the phrase moves to a G chord, the 5 chord in the key, which borrows this B natural leading tone note in the piano and upper string parts to create a more powerful resolution up to the tonic. This is not at all uncommon in minor key pieces, but what is less common is the way the stacked fifth structure in the low strings is maintained to put an A natural on top of the figure. This A natural pokes out as a surprisingly bright note in an ocean of dark A flats. In fact, there are A-flat notes within this same bar, so the A natural feels extra surprising, but each string part that's woven together is carefully laid out so as to avoid any A-flat and A naturals butting heads at the same time, even though there are some close calls. Dirtmouth's theme had some similar ear-catching out-of-key moments, with the raised 6th C-sharps in the melody being contrasted with C natural chords coming in soon after, and a couple of F major chords bringing in that head-turning flat 2 color as well. In fact, it's interesting to see how closely the bone bottom theme follows the emotional beats of Dirtmouth's theme with completely different compositional techniques. Dirtmouth's general approach was to sit on that E minor chord and hammer different color tones with the melody. The second of the key is the first sound used, the brittle dissonance against the chord and unresolved nature of the note being wielded to make you cry as hard as possible, and then turning the phrase to the bright raised 6th at the end lets you know that there's hope even in this dank place. Bone Bottom uses a simple melody without much color or movement and lets it tie together the super colorful and emotional chord structures. Again, these chord structures are designed to milk tears from your eyeballs, with these minor flat 6 chords packing a huge emotional punch. But again, there's an uplifting movement at the end of each phrase that gives you hope. Instead of borrowing brighter notes from outside the natural minor scale, the phrases end on this B flat 6 chord. The same structure as our opening chord, but built off of the flat 7th of the key. It has such a soft, warm, comforting quality to it. Both pieces share an obvious aesthetic that's tied to the sound of the series. Slow, arpeggiated chords low in the piano with delicate strings over top. But in contrast to the sparse piano and viola duet of the original game's town theme, Silksong's additions of full string quartet, harp, and bassoon feel like an upgrade in scope compared to the original game. So we have two completely different approaches within the same general sound and aesthetic that fulfill the same emotional beats and evoke a similar moody atmosphere to set the scene for the game's main town. Just like how Silksong feels completely different from Hollow Knight in the particulars of its movement and design, but maintains the same tone, follows the same general design principles, and maintains the same strength of vision to achieve the same kind of impression on the player. I am very excited to continue my journey through Farloom and explore what other musical treats it has to offer. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did and you want to support the channel, consider giving a couple bucks into my Patreon page. Thanks so much for watching either way. See you in the next one.